Oh, what's up guys, my name is BCBus and welcome to 10 tips on how to become better at Warzone. Tip number 1. Play to your own strengths and weaknesses. Sure, if you're a great sniper, pick it up, go for those 1v1s. Stay on the rooftops, do whatever you want. But if you know that you're not that great of a sniper, don't pick it up, don't put it in your loadouts. I know it's a lot of fun to be sniping, but it's so much more important to be comfortable with the guns you're playing with. If you know you're better at close range, make sure you stay close range. Being comfortable gives you a significant crucial edge over your opponent, and it will surely make sure that you end up higher on the final placements. Tip number 2. Move from outside the circle, avoid having people in your back. This was a huge game changer for me. By making sure that you're from the edge of the circle, you will never have people in your back. You don't have to worry about looking back all the time. It gives you a lot less stress, and it also makes sure that you're the one in the back of your opponents. So it's always wise to land far from the circle, or at least at the edge of the circle, because you can move inwards and you don't have to be worrying about every spread 360 degrees, but only approximately 180 degrees. This obviously also has a lot to do with where you want to land. I always advise to land somewhere just outside the circle on a scavenger or another contract, just to get some starting money. Most likely it'll also be a lot less busy, which also gives you a significant advantage because you can loot cash and weapons on your own time. Which is very useful because later you can buy a loadout drop far earlier than the rest of your opponents, again giving you a significant edge over your enemies. Tip number 3, and this may be a bit of a strange one, but choose your loadout to where the circle is going. I know that you may be sticking to your guns and sniping, but if the circle is going to downtown, wouldn't it be wiser to get a shotgun instead of a sniper? The circle tells you a lot about how the game is going to evolve. Make sure you make use of that. Be smarter than your opponents. If the circle is going to the farmlands, you know you're gonna have advantage with a sniper because you can see other people and you can damage them from far range. So by choosing your weapons wisely and by making sure that your weapons match the lay of the land, you'll once again get a significant edge over your opponent. Tip number 4, and this one requires some discipline. Practice with the guns in your loadout, or improve them and get all the attachments that you want. For the people who don't have the retail game, there's a practice mode in which you can level your guns. For the people who do have the retail game, hop into a couple of games of multiplayer. Make sure you get comfortable with your gun, unlock all the attachments that you want, and don't just assume that because some YouTuber or streamer says that this gun is fantastic, that you use it in your loadout, because you may not have all the attachments or just plainly not comfortable with it. Practicing with your guns will improve your gameplay significantly. Knowing your gun is absolutely crucial. Knowing how fast it will reload, what the ADS speed is, how it shoots, what the recoil pattern is, or just if you like it because it's crispy or not. I have guns that are supposedly very good, but I don't like them, such as the MP5. I just don't like the gun. I know it's an exceptional gun, but I just can't get to grips with it. Instead, I prefer the MP7 or the AUG. Both very strong guns, but other people swear by the MP5. Maybe if I would play more with the MP5, I would like it better. Because I've never played with the MP5 or not that much, I don't like it as much. This is a great example of why getting to grips and practicing with your guns will give you an edge over your opponents. Tip number 5. Learn how to use iron sights. This is both very useful for normal multiplayer and Warzone. Learning how to use iron sights will ensure the fact that you have another extra attachment to use. Iron sights are very hard to come to grips with, and some are just plain ugly and very difficult to use. I understand. Learning how to use iron sights is such a groundbreaker. Because you have iron sights, you can now get that stippled grip tape, or something else that you really want on your gun but couldn't because you just need that reflex sight or that scope. Trust me, learning how to play with iron sights will change the game completely. Not only because you will have to learn how to use weapons again, but also because you can get that extra attachment, and in the end, it will make sure that you will have a significant advantage once again over your opponents. Tip number 6. Choose your battles. Don't be trigger happy. It is so important that you realize that not everyone you see should be shot at. If you're with teams and you're on your own, don't shoot at a team that consists of 3 or more. You will be gunned down. Also, if you don't have the gun for the position or you have a gun that you're not completely comfortable with, don't pull the trigger. Not every gunfight needs to be engaged, especially not if you're the one that sees your opponent and he doesn't see you. Sometimes it's wiser to just flee. Make sure you get a better gun or a better position and then once again engage in combat. Sometimes people get so caught up in combat and shooting other people that they forget where the position of the circle is. Especially if you stick to my former tip, you'll be close to the circle a lot of times. If you're close to the circle and you're engaged in combat with someone, you may just be in a position that the circle is catching up on you and you're also stuck with your opponent. This is a terrible position to be in, so if you see an opponent that the circle is closing in on you, choose a different route. Make sure that you avoid your opponent and engage in combat with him maybe later, or just move to a different part of the map where you'll be more comfortable. Choosing your battles will help you vanquish your opponents, but it will also help you stay alive longer. This will benefit both you and your team. Also, if you happen to see the guns of your opponents and you recognize it's a very strong gun, and you recognize the camo being gold or Damascus even, you'll probably know that your opponent is very experienced and probably pretty good with the gun. If you know you're not that experienced or insecure about that engagement, don't do it. Turn your back, run away. Only if you're forced into that engagement, do it. Tip number 7. You don't have to use the meta, the most effective tactic available. Just because some YouTubers and streamers are playing with the gun, doesn't mean that that's gonna be the right gun for you. Just because everybody says the M4A1 and the Grau is absolutely overpowered, doesn't mean that you're gonna win every game of Warzone from now on when using that gun. True, there may be some benefit to using them because they're stronger than their opponents, but if you believe you're better with other guns, just use it. If you think the Kilo or the M13 is the gun for you and has always outperformed anything you ever did with the Grau or the M4, just stick to it. Just because somebody says you should use this gun, don't do it. Think for yourself. If you're more comfortable with one gun, just stick to it. Sometimes, however, it may be good to look at the meta. For example, the Snake Shot Akimbo Magnums or the .357. It's an absolute hassle to grind it out, but in the end, it's so rewarding to use them. They're absolutely overpowered, and sometimes that's a good thing. By going through the grind with the .357, you get to grips with the gun and you will also be comfortable playing with it. Effectively, you're killing two birds with one stone. Not only because you're using the meta, which may be in your advantage this time, but also because you've come to grips with the gun, dissolving the problem you have if you're not familiar with the gun in the first place. So be wise when you choose the weapons in your loadout. Again, just because some streamer says this is the best gun in the game, doesn't make it so. Tip numero 8. Tip number 8 includes the operators. Surprisingly, this makes a huge difference. There are several operators, but in my opinion the operators with the best outfits and camouflage are, in this order, Otter, Kruger and Grinch. Otter and Kruger are behind challenges. For Otter you have to complete a special ops mission, for Kruger you have to do a finishing moves on 25 other players. Both these challenges are not too hard. If you've got the retail game, obtaining these shouldn't be difficult at all. Grinch is somebody you have from the start. He has a great camouflage and is pretty difficult to see. Other operators don't have camouflage or are very obvious to see. This will definitely work in your disadvantage because other players will see you more quickly. One of the operators even has a red Adidas suit. He's gonna stand out from a mile away. By having camouflage, you're so much more difficult to see, giving you an opportunity to shoot at your opponent first because he won't see you, even when you're at close range. You'll be surprised how big the difference is and how surprised you'll be with how bad opponents will see you if you're in the right position. Obviously the camouflage won't work always, so use that in your advantage as well. If you've got a grassy camouflage, if you've got the option to go to a house that's colored green or a house that's colored blue, choose the house that's green, just in case. You never know whether your opponent is gonna mistake you for something else. Tip number 9. Be very careful when approaching loadout drops or buying stations. Especially in the later stages of the game, these areas will be extremely busy. Make sure that you scan the area carefully and always have the high ground when approaching a loadout drop or a buying station to ensure that you have the advantage over the opponent, or just make sure that there's no opponents in the area. In this first example, you can see me waiting very patiently for the opponent I can see coming on my radar. I know he's going to the buying station to buy something, whether it be a loadout drop or something else. By waiting carefully for him and seeing him open the menu, I know I'll have loads of time to kill him. It is an easy kill. By approaching and being careful around these loadout drops and buying stations, you can not only make use of them, but also use them in your advantage. You know people are going to approach them. Especially later in the game if you're playing with teams, people are going to need them to buy back their teammates. Sometimes it's better not to buy back a teammate, but to approach a buying station very carefully, because other teams are going to show up. I know it's probably going to be better to have 4 players in your team in the last stage of the game, but if you see that's going to be busy, it may be wiser to not approach the buying station at all. Because is it better to have 4 players in your team or not at all? Because you may die if you approach it. Also, it's just a great way to kill other teams. They're going to be desperate around the area, one of them is going to have to be in a menu, they're often in open areas, so it's always wise to make sure that you have an eye on buying stations around you. People are going to approach them and make sure to not approach them too quickly. It's pretty embarrassing in how many times stuff like this has gotten me killed already. Alright, the final tip. Tip number 10. And I know I just said that iron sights will make sure that you have one perk available extra on your guns. Well, consider using extended mags or just a magazine with more rounds. This goes for every gun except snipers and LMGs, or shotguns for that matter. Actually, it just mainly goes for assault rifles and SMGs. But having an extended mag will truly be a huge advance over your opponent. Due to the armor plates that everybody wears, it'll take a lot of bullets to kill someone. Having 60 bullets in your M4 or Grau magazine, make sure that you can kill him with one pull of the trigger and a continuous barrage of fire. If you only have 30 bullets, it may be that you have to reload in the meantime, which will surely get you killed. Having extended mags is a huge game changer to me. I didn't expect it to be such a big difference, but to me it was one of the most crucial things I could have done. Having extended mags will just make your gameplay so much better. You'll hesitate less to be shooting at people and you don't have to conserve bullets as much. Which is also great because you can just barrage fire other teams. Barraging other teams is also great because then they have to take cover and they have to peek at you, giving you the advantage of initiative. Having initiative makes sure that you can decide how the engagement is gonna go. Are you gonna flank them? Are you gonna wait for them to peek? Having extended mags is advantageous in so many levels. It's just such a crucial factor to be on your guns. So get it! Alright, so those were the 10 tips to improve your gameplay in Warzone. I know that not all of them may apply to you, or you may think they're ridiculous, or maybe I should add some more. I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. It will greatly help me grow the channel. This was BCBus, and I'll catch you later.